In this video I'm going to share with you how to really have the best day ever, and doing this while avoiding being manic and polar and going to extremes, but rather actually seeking to have balance and equanimity. Now, this whole idea of the best day ever was really popularized by firstly SpongeBob and SquarePants, and then secondary to that was David Wolfe, the health educator, author, etc., have really brought this idea out and really introduced it into kind of mainstream languaging. So what we're going to talk about in this video is basically the fact that your best day ever might actually be someone else's worst day ever. What we think is good, maybe in the immediate moment, might actually be turn out to be very terrible later on. And flip side, what we think is terrible might actually turn out later on to be the greatest thing that has ever happened to us. So what I'm going to do is give you a few examples and then share with you a really classic yet extremely relevant Taoist parable which really sums all this up nicely. So the first example is that, we might think winning $1 million might be just the greatest thing ever. Yet there's just stories, countless stories of people whose lives were ruined by sudden wealth through winning the lottery or through making a lot of money in the music business or entertainment business or some other industry where they just go up and then they crash and usually end up worse off than when they started. So also following that same train of thought, there's a lot of people who would probably consider suicide if all they had was $1 million. Meaning to a lot of people $1 million is inconceivably large. But to a lot of other people, $1 million is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. It's really, spend that in a really short amount of time and make it back even quicker, and it's no big deal. It's like $5 would be to like regular people. So that just points out, the relativity of that whole thing. And the common idea is, oh, $1 million, that would be the greatest thing ever. In reality, maybe not. We don't really know. So another second example that I'm going to use here is, some people might be in a state and really complain that, oh, I can only afford this, or I can only afford that, or I can only afford a used car, I can only afford one bedroom, or only afford this size. Yet, in reality, what we take for granted and complain about, much of the rest of the world maybe dreams about, but they definitely don't even have it. They definitely live on like $1 a day. Yet people get their whole days ruined because, I don't know, their text messaging messes up or their iPhone starts going slow or their luxury vehicle has to go to get serviced. These little inconsequential things in the grand scheme of things, many people are like, oh, this is the worst day ever. When in reality, to someone else who had nothing, having a BMW that had to go to the shop or got a flat tire or broke down might be the best day they ever had. So there's that. So the point of all of these examples that I'm giving you is to see the relativity of things and to see that in reality we don't really know, absolute good or bad. We can't really see the bigger picture. So on that note, someone might lose their job and in the short term think, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. But in reality, they might say, well, maybe I'll work on that book, or maybe I'll do this project, or maybe I'll try that, or maybe I'll travel, or maybe I'll do this. In reality, that quote loss turns out to be the greatest opportunity that they'd ever had. If you study the lives of a lot of successful people, you see that it happens quite a bit. So again, the point is to see the relativity of things and to do our best to maintain balance and equanimity, and thus avoid being manic and extreme, to avoid being, oh my God, I'm so blissed out, today is the best day ever. And then the flip side of that is, obviously manic, which is, oh my God, this is the worst ever, I'm so depressed, life is this, blah, blah, blah. So it's really about finding a balance between the two. So to really wrap it all up and illustrate the point in a different way, there's a really old Chinese Taoist story which describes a farmer living in a poor country village. Yet his neighbors considered him very well-to-do. He owned a horse, which in those times was amazing. So he owned a horse which he used for plowing his field and for transportation. Yet one day his horse ran away. All of his neighbors came up and exclaimed, "Oh, this is so terrible! I can't believe your horse ran away." The farmer said, "Maybe." A few days later, though, the horse returned and brought back 2 wild horses with it. So then the neighbors all rejoiced at his good fortune and said, "Wow, you're so lucky. Now you have 3 horses. You can get all this other work done. You can make so much more money, blah, blah, blah." So our farmer said, "Maybe." Yet the next day, his son is out there trying to ride one of the wild horses, and the horse threw the son off. The son broke his leg. And then all of his neighbors came around and said, "Oh, it's so terrible. Your son broke his leg. Now he can't work. You're going to have to do all this work yourself. It's so terrible." And he said, "Maybe." Yet the next day, or the next week, I'm sorry, the conscription officers from the military came around to enlist, all of the young men from the village in the army. Yet they rejected the farmer's son because of his broken leg. So then, of course, all the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, you're so lucky. Wow, look how this worked out for you." And the farmer said, "Maybe." So again, that story really sums up the whole point and the general idea of this video. Hopefully that's been very helpful, and hopefully it's shown you how you can truly have the best day ever, following the line of SpongeBob SquarePants and David Wolf. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.